Hello everyone, welcome back to Believers IS Academy, Bengaluru. This is daily news analysis session. In this session, we'll be discussing some important articles which are important from UPSC prelims, mains as well as interview perspective. The first article for the day, that is 20th January 2025, is an editorial from the Hindu newspaper that is talking about a surge in radical governments and the hopes of democracy. How there is a change or shift in the governments where there are more radical governments coming up, and what will be its implications on the democracy in the whole world. So the article focuses on three important countries, that is Afghanistan, Syria and Bangladesh, which have seen radical Islamic groups who are influencing the geopolitics. Okay, so first the article talks about Afghanistan, the Taliban takeover. Okay, we all know about Afghanistan, how Afghanistan, this was Afghanistan. There was a democratically elected government through the help of USA, and the USA army was supporting this democratic elected government. And then there was Taliban, which was ruling Afghanistan before the democratic elected government or before the USA. But recently, that is in 2021-2022, USA decided to withdraw its forces. Once the US government decided to withdraw its forces, the democratic elected government was removed by the Taliban, which is a radical Islamic group, and the democratic elected government was replaced by Taliban in Afghanistan. Okay, so what happened here was, when the Taliban seized control in Afghanistan, the US and its allies rationalized the situation by citing the need to engage with Taliban to protect women's and minority rights. Okay, USA and allies, instead of removing Taliban and restoring democracy, they decided to be rational with Taliban, because for them protection of women's rights and minority rights were very important. However, many critics saw this as a failure to address the terrorism and the authoritarianism that was propagated by Taliban. USA did certain missteps, that is, billions of dollars worth of US weaponry were left behind, and there was a global perception of weakness in preventing Taliban rise, and these left behind weapons were used by Taliban to overthrow the democratically elected government. Now Taliban is ruling Afghanistan through Sharia law, where important rights of women and minority rights have been undermined. Okay, then the curious case of Syria. There is a new crisis in 2024, that is, here also a radical groups, that is radical Islamic groups, were able to overthrow a elected government. That is the overthrow of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad by radical group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham or HTS, which was linked to Al-Qaeda, again a radical terror group. Okay, so HTS or Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, it was able to replace President Bashar al-Assad. The Western was supportive of the questionable actors. That is, despite the HTS's extreme rules, the US and allies supported the extremist group, echoing the same mistakes made in Afghanistan, wherein they decided to rationalize with Taliban instead of focusing on counter-terrorism. Okay, here there was a larger geopolitical game involved in the Syria, because President al-Bashar was long-standing supporter of Russia. He was enjoying power because of the support given by Russia and its ally. Now HTS was revolted against President al-Bashar al-Assad, which is nothing but revolting against Russia. Obviously, the USA's interest aligned with HTS, despite the group being radical Islamist group. Okay, how the West, instead of focusing on democracy, focused on their own interest, focused on their own geopolitical aspects. Then the recent case of Bangladesh, where there was a democratic decline, which resulted in erosion of democratic principles. The growing authoritarianism in Bangladesh under the guise of democracy is a new trend. In this situation, radical Islamist groups such as Jamaat-e-Islami and others are influencing policies and threatening the minorities, as can be seen from attacks on Hindus in Bangladesh, who happen to be minorities. Herein, the role of USA again aligned with the government or aligned with the rebels or aligned with the group which was able to overthrow a democratically elected government. That is, USA backs the government of Muhammad Yunus for its reformist image. The rise of Islamic radicalism complicates the situation, impacting India's security and relations with Bangladesh. Okay, again, for USA, Muhammad Yunus being a reformer is main compared to the radical Islamist groups such as Jamaat-e-Islami having influence in his side. Okay, because USA is aligning with Muhammad Yunus, it is raising concerns for India's security and relations with Bangladesh. Okay, then global implications. The global implications of these moves are that the democracy is at risk. That is, the rise of radical governments challenges democratic principles, minority protections, and regional stability. For example, in Bangladesh, the democratic principles are under the down, and in Bangladesh or in Afghanistan, minorities are being killed and the rights are undermined, and in Syria, due to the ongoing tension, the regional stability, that is the regional stability of Middle East, is under threat. That can also be the case with respect to India if the situation in Bangladesh doesn't improve upon. Okay, then it also has certain strategic concerns for India because with the terrorism and political instability brewing in its neighborhood, India must tread cautiously, especially given its history with such groups. For example, groups mainly belonging to Pakistan. Okay, then so the article provides certain way forward, that is, there should be caution with realism. That is, they argue against legitimizing radical groups for short term gains, emphasizing the need for stronger international cooperation to safeguard democracy. The USA and their allies should not focus on short term gains, instead, should focus on international cooperation and regional stability. Okay, for India, it should strengthen its security, build alliances, and support inclusive governments in the region in order to counteract these challenges. Okay, a very beautiful editorial which covered important geopolitical aspects. Okay, do make notes of important points there. Next, the second article is again an editorial from the Hindu which deals about recasting insolvency resolution. Here, they are focusing on challenges to insolvency and bankruptcy code. Okay, so insolvency and bankruptcy code of 2016 is a key economic reform in India. Initially, it boosted India's standing in handling bad loans and defaulters. The IBC has subsequently faced challenges as it matured, particularly considering institutional capacity, procedural deficiency, and delays. Now we'll understand what are the reasons behind this institutional and procedural delays and deficiencies. First and foremost reason is the overburdened tribunals. In insolvency bankruptcy code, there are two important tribunals, that is National Company Law Tribunal, and there is an appeal tribunal for this NCLT, that is NCLAT, that is National Company Law Appellate Tribunal. These tribunals handle insolvency cases under insolvency bankruptcy code and corporate law disputes. Limited sanctioned strength of 63 members results in temporary disjunction with members spending time on multiple matters, which is often relating to delays, which often is resulting in delays. This dual burden delays resolutions like mergers, amalgamations, and insolvency cases. Okay, so the capacity is low with respect to tribunals. And another second reason is the judicial delays. That is, the average time for insolvency resolution increased from 654 days in 2022 to 716 days in 2023. Initially, according to the IBC code, the time period was a maximum of 330 days. Now it has risen from 330 days to 654, from 664 to 716 days. Okay, it is keeping on increasing. Despite the repeated Supreme Court directives for adherence of timelines, delays persist due to tribunals not fully utilizing the working hours. This is the reason behind delays. The article also provides certain key examples of Jet Airways. That is, the Jet Airways resolution case exposed several structural issues in IBC court resolution. First one, the members belonging to tribunals and IBC lacked domain knowledge to handle nuanced insolvency cases with respect to aerospace industry. There was inefficient appointment processes, ignore the need for specialized expertise. Okay, you need specialized expertise to deal with cases of this nuanced insolvency cases. And there is a sparse use of alternatives. There are certain alternatives apart from insolvency bankruptcy code and the tribunals, but those alternatives are not properly used. That is, the current framework mandate tribunal hearings for all applications, including minor procedural matters, leading to avoidable delays. Okay, the limited use of alternative dispute mechanisms exacerbates inefficiencies. Okay, the mandating of all the applications, such as even the minor procedural matters, results in avoidable delays, leading to delays. Okay, those delays which are those time which can be taken up into important issues are being taken away by these minor procedural matters. Okay, and there is a broader systematic issues, that is, obviously, since the ages we have had a bureaucratic hurdles, that is, registry staff ignore urgent case listings, slowing the resolution process, and institutional framework, that is, insufficient infrastructure and expertise undermine the efficiency of insolvency resolutions. And finally, the editorials also provides certain reforms, that is, there should be specialized benches, that is, creating specialized benches for different categories of cases to enhance procedural efficiency, and incorporate mandatory mediation before filing insolvency cases so that we can focus more on important issues. Then improving appointments, that is, appoint members with relevant domain experience in insolvency matters. Okay, if there is a insolvency dealing with aerospace industry, a relevant domain experience person should be involved in the committee. If an industry is dealing with coal mining, then the insolvency matter should involve a person who is well versed with coal mining industry. Then there is a need of hybrid model, that is, use a mix of judicial expertise and domain specialization to handle complex cases. Then there is a need for infrastructure investment, that is, adequate courtrooms and a skilled support staff are essential to ensure smoother functioning so that we can reduce the dual role We can reduce the dual role which is being performed by the tribunals now. Okay, so very important articles, very important points as well. So do note down the points which can be used in your answers. Third one, trust route booms after the electoral bond ban. Okay, so we all know that Supreme Court decision on February 2024 to scrap the electoral bond scheme has caused a significant shift in political funding. Donations to political parties through electoral trust have surged according to the report from Election Commission of India. Initially, there was a recourse, that is electoral bonds. Since it is banned, now the recourse is going back to the electoral trust. So what are electoral trusts? These are non-profit organizations that act as the intermediaries, collecting voluntary contributions from individuals and companies and distributing them to the registered political parties. Okay, then formation is, they are governed by Electoral Trust Scheme of 2013, introduced under the Income Tax Act of 1961. The companies which are registered under Section 25 of the Companies Act can establish these trusts. Okay, and they are monitored or regulated by Election Commission of India. These provisions are very important. They are NGOs governed under Electoral Trust Scheme, and only the companies which are registered under Section 25 of Companies Act can establish these trusts. Okay, and they are directly monitored by Election Commission of India. Okay, so who can donate? The eligible donors are Indian citizens and domestic companies, and ineligible donors are foreign individuals, companies, government companies, and entities restricted under the Representation of People Act of 1951. Okay, so there are certain issues with the electoral trust as well, that is transparency issues. That is, while the donor names are disclosed, specific contributions to individual political parties are not publicly detailed. And there is a corporate influence, that is, large corporate donors dominate the system, leading to fears of undue influence. Then inequitable distribution, that is, major political parties receive a disproportionate share of funds, sidelining smaller political parties. And finally, the limited donor diversity. Contribution primarily comes from few large corporations which are based in India itself. However, there are certain benefits of electoral trust over electoral bonds, such as transparency, that is, unlike bonds, trust disclosed donor names and the amounts to the ECI, whereas in bonds it was anonymous donations which hindered traceability. In accountability, the trust required disclosure of funds distributed to parties, increasing the transparency, whereas bonds did not mandate any such accountability. In regulatory oversight, trusts are closely monitored by the Election Commission of India, whereas bonds were managed by banks with a minimal regulatory scrutiny. And there is a prevention of foreign influence, that is, trust prohibit foreign donations, reducing the risk of external political interference, whereas bonds raise concerns over foreign controlled entities influencing politics. Okay, so the surge in domestic donations by electoral bond trust is because of the ban of electoral bonds. As a result, more people are going to the route of electoral trust. Important topic, important points, make a note of it. Then, what is dark oxygen, which is a unique phenomena? It was recently discovered. So it refers to oxygen being produced deep beneath the ocean, thousands of feet below the surface, in the absence of light or photosynthesis. Okay, that is why it is very important. It is a groundbreaking discovery that challenges traditional understanding of oxygen production. Why it is significant? It challenges conventional belief. In conventionally, we until now we saw that, or we believed that oxygen production was attributed only to photosynthesis, which was carried out by oceanic plankton, algae, drifting plants, and photosynthetic bacteria. But no, these organisms depend on sunlight for oxygen production. But the new discovery has provided a new mechanism That is, oxygen production in this case is not plant-based material but result from electrochemical activity of polymetallic nodules found in the seabed. Okay, so electrochemical activity by polymetallic nodules, not instead of the live animals or organisms. So here the polymetallic nodules have a role, that is, resemble lumps of coal and are rich in metals such as manganese, iron, cobalt, nickel, copper, and lithium. These nodules split water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen through electrochemical reactions even in the absence of sunlight. Okay, so significance is it is re-rating biological processes, that is, it introduces a non-photosynthetic oxygen source, expanding the understanding of biological and chemical processes in extreme environments. And impact of marine ecosystem could provide insights into oxygen availability and sustenance of deep sea life in dark oceanic regions. Now we understand why there is life even in the dark despite the absence of photosynthesis. Then exploration potential. It encourages further study of the deep sea environment to better understand its chemistry, geology, potential resources. And the final article for the day is SCOT mission. What is SCOT mission? It is short name for Space Camera for Object Tracking, which is an inaugural mission of Digantara, which is an Indian space startup. It focuses on space awareness or space surveillance and is one of world's first commercial space situational awareness satellite. Okay, it was launched aboard SpaceX's Transporter 12 mission. It highlights India's growing prowess in private sector space technology. Key features are it tracks resident space objects, including satellites, debris to enhance safety of space operations. It is deployed in sun synchronous orbit, ensuring efficiency of tracking objects in low Earth orbit. It can track objects as small as 5 centimeter in diameter, so very high resolution is there. Functions without restrictions posed by traditional sensors such as limited field of view. Improves space situational awareness, critical for avoiding collisions and ensuring sustainable use of orbital space. It enhances national security by monitoring space activities. So the collaborations are, it was funded by or supported by Aditya Birla Ventures and SIDBI. The launch partner was SpaceX. Other contributions were along SCOT. Two other Indian startups also participated in the Transporter 12 mission, that is Pixel. Deployed 3 satellites into Firefly constellation, and X-Links are designed and developed by Elevation, one for US based amalgamation. Not very important, but the SCOT mission is important. The significance is it shows India in the global leadership in space situational awareness. It provides safer space operations and it boosts to Indian space startups. It provides as an inspiration to other startups. So this ends our discussion. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and also click on the bell icon so that you don't miss a notification. With this, I will end the video. Jai Hind.